Hello there guys and welcome to our next class for the fourth unit. This is a class that is part of the high school in 9th BYS. Our subject is biology and we are working on week number 32. Let's start with our presentation with our end in mind. Students will be able to exemplify the rate of change in at least 5 species by creating a timeline of events. And this is going to help us out a lot because we need to have a lot of discussion during today's Zoom session. Here you have a summary of the activities that you need to complete. Read the lesson number 3. Focus a little bit more on page 183. And number 2, look for at least 5 images about the rate of change and paste them in your notebook. Number 3, explain each one of them in a short paragraph. Number 4, complete the book exercises. And lastly, number 5, make a compilation of your work and upload it to Educativa. Make sure you have your pictures before the live session ready because you are going to use them to talk more about the topic. Okay, so here we have, we're going to start with the rate of change. You're going to find this topic from pages 180 to 183. A new species can form when 2 groups from the same species are separated for long enough to evolve differently according to their environment factors. They can be divided by natural barriers such as rivers. So let's think about a population of squirrels. And we have a population of squirrels that live in this environment right here. But sometime it happens that a group of squirrels actually move to the other side of the river. So then it's the same species, but they are separated by a natural barrier, which will be, of course, the river. And what's going to happen over time? It's possible that let's say that the right side of the river is different than the one from the left side of the river. And there are different environmental factors that might lead to different mutations and different adaptations to both of the squirrels. So with thousands, probably millions of years, it can happen that those groups of squirrels can be developed as different species. That's just one example of the rate of change. And here we have an evidence of rate of change. There are 2 populations of squirrels at the Grand Canyon. They are separated by geographical locations and they are slightly different. One is known as skybob squirrel, while the other one is known as Abbott's squirrel. It is possible that many years in the future, they will become 2 total different species. And this is quite interesting to analyze as well, because we studied that rivers can be a natural barrier. But in this case, the canyon itself is going to be a natural barrier as well. And of course, when you start analyzing the population of the same species, but on both sides of the canyon, you're going to find out that there are some noticeable differences in there. So here we have a picture of the squirrels that I was previously mentioning. And these ones on the left are the ones that live in the south rim. And these ones on the right are the ones that live in the north rim. So what differences can you spot? And it is not necessary to conduct a very deep scientific report and of course a very deep investigation towards the DNA information, but you can actually get to see them. So I can tell you that the color is different. Look at the color of both squirrels. While the one on the left is a little bit gray, the one on the right is a little bit more brownish and a little bit darker as well. But how about the tail? It's still a little bit similar. They still have like white fur as well as gray fur in the case of the squirrel from the left, and in the one in the right, it is a little bit darker as well. The tail is a little bit darker, including a little bit of white, but a little bit more brownish and darker colors. And lastly, you can also notice the belly of the squirrel. The one on the left has a white belly as well as some other white fur on some of its limbs. And right over here on the right, it's almost fully dark. So it's the same species. But one more time, they are separated by a geographical location. And scientists theorize that sometime in the future, they might become 2 total different species, such as it has happened with many other species in the past. And we have what patterns describe the rate of evolution. Fossils have provided scientists with evidence about the disappearing of some species while others appear. In some cases, these are drastic, while in others, it is more gradual. So, you have some examples right here in the picture. You can notice that from a very simple structure that might be an amoeba or a bacterium, then more complex structures are developed until we have like a new turtle species, just like the one in here, which might reminds us of the dictalic animal that we had previously seen. And of course, this theory has supported the theory of evolution. And of course, there is a misconception that people say that we come from the monkey. We actually don't come from the monkey. We come from a common ancestor. And this common ancestor is known as the Homo sapiens. And of course, from the Homo sapiens, then different species were generated, such as the monkey and of course the humans that we are right now. And just like it was mentioned, some changes in the structure of the bodies can be done immediately, while some others can be, actually need to take a little bit more time in order to be perceived. And here you have an example of gradual change. The changes in the species takes plenty of time. It might require hundreds, thousands, or even millions of years. Fossils provide evidence for this. And here you have one of the examples that you find in the book about the way horses were generated, let's say. So we have in number one, a very small kind of horse, let's say. Little by little, they started to grow bigger and bigger. And one noticeable change that you could see in each one of them was that their limbs started to change. So before you could see that they had this sort of fingers, let's say, and little by little the fingers started to disappear, and then the bones, started to synthesize into a bigger, more solid structure until we have the actual limbs of the horses that we know nowadays. But just like it was mentioned, it took them hundreds, thousands, and even millions of years to get to this point. And I would like to know what you have to say about the instant or the faster changes that you have in species. So make sure you go back to your book and read the last page so we can discuss a little bit more about this during our live session. It was a pretty short topic, still quite interesting, and that'll be about it. I'll see you around in a couple of minutes during our live session. Goodbye, everyone, and always take care.